My name is John Schweppe. I'm the Policy Director at American Principles Project. We are here today to rally to protect kids online. So today we have oral arguments at 10 a.m. at the Supreme Court in Free Speech Coalition v. Paxton, a critical case. We're going to find out if these age verification laws we've all been working on are constitutional. We think the answer will be, of course, yes. And we have some wonderful speakers here today to chat with you guys about this. But first I'm going to introduce Terry Schilling. Terry is the president of American Principles Project. Under his leadership, APP has become a powerhouse defending the family, leading the way in both pro-family politics and pro-family policy at both the state and federal level. One of Terry's top priorities has been protecting children from online pornography by passing age verification laws. APP became a driving force behind these laws, with 19 states now requiring age verification for websites that distribute material harmful to minors, with more to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Schilling.
Thank you, John, and thank you all for braving such cold weather. I am so excited to be here. I'm not just the president of American Principles Project. I am a husband to Katie and father to 7 children that I'm very proud of. And that's why we're here today. I'm surrounded by so many heroes of mine, Mary Miller and so many others. I'm excited to be here. But we are all here united under one simple banner and one simple call to action. America must protect her children online. The very fact that we have to stand here today shows that our country has gone a little bit off the rails. Just imagine asking the framers of our Constitution, is it okay for states to stop companies from giving free pornography to children? Does the First Amendment prohibit that? Yes. Does anybody seriously believe that a single one of our founding fathers would have been against protecting children from pornography? I think that's preposterous. When we adopted the Constitution, is that what our American people, our founding generation, were voting for? No. We live in a country that regulates how many gallons of water your toilet can flush, but has no serious regulations on the billion-dollar pornography industry. We live in a world where you have to verify your age to access the website for Marlboro cigarettes, but not to access Pornhub. That is upside down. If the porn companies get their way, behavior that would be criminal in a store on Main Street will, so long as you move the business online, become a constitutional right. It makes no sense. The internet does not exist outside of reality. It exists in the real world, and it should be subject to the laws of the real world. No other industry, in person or online, gets away with acting the way that the porn industry does. This isn't a conservative versus a liberal thing either. This isn't a Republican versus Democrat thing. Age verification might be the most bipartisan policy in the country right now. Remember that the law that they're debating, that they're discussing this morning from Texas, passed their state house almost unanimously. It passed the Senate unanimously, and it passed the House 133-1. This is not an open question. This has been settled, and we need the courts to get out of the way. When you poll the American people, 83% of America supports age verification for porn sites. What more is there to discuss? I'm here today to tell you all that regardless of what the Supreme Court decides and comes out with this summer, we're going to get age verification done. They throw up a hurdle here and they strike down the Texas law. We're going to come right back up. We're going to get a ladder. We're going to climb over that. We're going to parachute over. We are going to get age verification done. These are our children, also known as the future of America. We must protect them. Congress has tried to solve this problem almost three decades ago, but the court said no. Then Congress tried again. The court said no. They predicted the invisible hand of technological progress would make this problem go away, but it didn't. It got way worse. So I'm going to move on. We've got a huge program today. Our kids have these machines in their pockets that can deliver pornography instantly, anywhere, without anyone ever knowing. We have to address this, and if we can't get this done, then this country is not worth saving. We have to get this done. We have to protect our children. And what I want to do now is I want to introduce one of my heroes. She's from my home state. She represents the 15th Congressional District of Illinois. Congresswoman Mary Miller has been a leading champion on a host of family issues, but most importantly, in protecting the innocence of our children. Congresswoman Mary Miller, please, thank you.
Thank you. Well, good, beautiful morning to you all. And thank you to Terry and the American Principles Project for inviting me to speak. Like Terry, I'm the mother of 7 children. But unlike Terry, I'm on to the grandchildren. We are expecting our 21st grandchild. How about that? I am deeply concerned about the ease of access that our children have to obscene content. Many studies show that children as young as 8 are viewing pornography, often accidentally. And its use has been directly linked to violent crimes such as murder and rape. Protecting children online is one of the main reasons that I founded the Congressional Family Caucus, providing members of the House with a forum to discuss legislative issues and solutions. I was shocked to learn that obscenity laws have been on the books for decades, yet the Department of Justice refuses to enforce them. So Congress and states like Texas have been forced to take on the DOJ's responsibility to address the public health crisis that is destroying our nation. I am proud to stand with Senator Mike Lee in sponsoring the SCREEN Act, a bill much like Texas' bill, which will protect children from accessing obscene content online. I am a strong supporter of the First Amendment, and I'm appreciative of the right to speak today in front of the Supreme Court. But the First Amendment does not give predatory companies the right to produce obscene content that can be accessed by minor children. We have laws that protect minors from accessing alcohol, tobacco, and gambling. These obscene materials should be treated the same way to protect our children. Protecting children online certainly qualifies as a compelling government interest, and age verification laws provide the least restrictive means to do so. I believe Texas law is fully constitutional, and I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court will rule in their favor. Thank you all for the work that each of you are doing to protect our precious children, and may God continue to bless your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And I just want to point out something. I was just talking over here. Where's the porn industry? Where are they? Where's their rally? They're hiding because they know they're wrong, right? It's a $100 billion industry. And if APP and the National Center of Against Sexual Exploitation, all these other, FRC, all of the groups that we brought together, if we can get this big of a crowd with our small budgets versus the $100 billion porn industry, what does that tell you? Right? It tells you that they're wrong, and they're on the wrong side of history. They're harming our children. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. We love your leadership, and we're going to be behind you every step of the way. The next person that I get to introduce is the woman that started this whole darn thing by passing the first ever age verification law in the states. Has gotten through. Representative Lori Schlegel serves as the state representative for District 82 in Louisiana. Schlegel is known for introducing and successfully passing the nation's first age verification law for online porn in 2022, which has since inspired 18 other states to implement similar legislation. This pioneering effort has made her a prominent figure in the movement to protect children from harmful content online. We would not, and I say this boldly, we would not be here today without Representative Lori Schlegel. Lori, come on up and tell everyone what's on your mind. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Burr, it's very cold for a Southerner like me. I want to first by thanking every advocate and every organization that has fought to protect kids online. I also want to recognize the lawmakers for 19 states and counting who have pushed age verification laws in their states. I want to thank AG Paxton and the Texas Attorney General's Office for defending age verification and doing a very great job. And I also want to give a special thanks to my fellow Louisiana legislators and our former governor who came together in a bipartisan effort to pass the first age verification law in the country, which was aimed at protecting kids from hardcore online pornography. That effort, born in my home state of Louisiana, has now spread across the country. When you see how quickly this movement has grown and how many lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have come together, it underscores how big this problem is. Because unfortunately, in today's climate, Republicans and Democrats, we don't come together to solve issues, but on this one we have, and we are united. We're united in shielding our kids from material that research has conclusively shown has been harmful to kids. Content that's only a few clicks away with no barriers, even from the youngest of viewers. As someone who's not just a legislator, I'm a mom. I'm also a licensed professional counselor and a certified sex addiction therapist. So I've seen firsthand how damaging online pornography has been, especially for our kids. When I was elected in 2021, I did not expect to be tackling such an issue right at the gate. But when I came across an interview with Billie Eilish on the Howard Stern show, and she conveyed to him that she'd been watching pornography since the age of 11 and it had negatively impacted her life, I just thought how courageous that was to be having that conversation with Howard Stern of all people. And sadly, her experience is common for many young adults and many young people today. In that moment, I knew I had to act. I started by researching the technology available to make sure we could protect privacy, because I promise you I care about privacy more than the porn industry does. I wanted to make sure we could implement anonymous, remote age verification, systems that could confirm someone's course age without revealing any identifying information. And that technology is available today. Then I consulted with constitutional lawyers to see if our bill could pass constitutional muster. And then to help educate my fellow lawmakers, I brought in Gail Dines, who did a webinar and who educated the body on the research on what our kids are actually seeing, the research and how they're harming them. And once you see the full scope of the problem, it's impossible to sit back and do nothing. So thankfully, Louisiana decided to do something about it. Our age verification bill passed with near unanimous support, and since then, 18 other states have quickly followed our lead, including Texas. Thank you, Texas. The states are stepping up to protect their kids, and we as a country are finally addressing an issue we've neglected for far too long. It's time to revisit this problem with the benefit of modern technology and a better understanding of the harm being done. The Supreme Court decisions on age verification are from the late 90s and early 2000s, which were based on a very different technological landscape and internet experience. Today, we can strike a balance by preserving First Amendment rights for adults and protecting kids from online harm. These laws get that balance right. It's time we value and protect our kids just as much as we do the value of the rights of adults. Our kids are worth the fight. Let's continue. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, so we are heavy on the Texas contingents. I got two back-to-back Texas heroes for us. The first, okay, so we all know if you're a husband, you know that you marry up. You always marry someone that's better than you. It's just the nature of life. One of our speakers, Angela Paxton, a senator from Texas who led the charge on this issue, she is already in the court right now with her husband, Ken Paxton. So Angela asked me to read this statement on her behalf. Quote, "It's both sad and shocking that there is any opposition to this common sense legislation that protects our children online with age verification. We have protected children from explicit materials in real life for decades. This legislation simply modernizes a time-tested approach for child safety for the online world. I am proud to have worked on legislation in the Texas Senate which built momentum for the ultimate passage of House Bill 1181, and I am honored to have carried it and passed it in the Senate. Thank you to everyone here today who has been part of this journey. Our children literally are our future, and together we will stand together to keep their future free. Thank you so much, Senator Paxton. Let's give her a round of applause. So this next guy that I met in Texas is a fantastic legislator. He's been a key ally for the family in Texas and has helped lead the charge and build momentum all across the country. Representative Matt Shaheen has been representing the people of District 66 since 2015. What the hell are you doing? I mean, we need you in there. I just can't believe you haven't lost your mind yet. He was the House sponsor of the age verification law that's being debated here today. He's a true champion of this issue. Representative Shaheen, please come up.
Well, good morning. I guess I'm the only one with the cowboy hat, right? So we know I'm from Texas. Yes, as the gentleman said, I'm State Representative Matt Shaheen. And look, this is the reason why I passed this legislation. My little daughter was interested in Barbie dolls, and she went out on the internet and did a search on the name Barbie. Well, Barbie dolls didn't come up. Some disgusting trash came up, and she was exposed to it. And since then, it's been very clear in the state of Texas and across our nation, there's a war on our children. The Bible says the evil one roams the earth seeking who he can destroy, and he's coming after our children. So it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can to protect our children from the sexualization of these pornographic websites and all the other evil that exists in our world today. And here's the thing. We're going to win this battle. We are going to win this battle. When this legislation passed, Pornhub and these other filthy organizations, they had a choice. They could have abided by the law and did simple age verification. Folks, there are age verification, there's millions of them on the internet with age-restricted products and services. Age verification is not a big deal on the internet. It's really not, and it's easy to implement. But these pornographic websites, they chose to, instead of abiding by the law and protecting our children, they chose to pull access from Texas, which, by the way, I was happy with. But that tells you what they're after. They do want to sexualize our children. They do want our children to be hooked on this filth. And let me tell you this, let me leave you with this. When we wrote this legislation that's going to be before the Supreme Court today, we had today in mind. We knew it was going to be challenged. We knew extremists that wanted to sexualize our children were going to fight us in the courts, and we had this day in mind. So we're going to be perfectly fine. We're going to prevail. We had lawyers and other legal experts throughout the nation help us draft this legislation, and we're going to prevail. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for everything you do, and onward in protecting our children. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. We need to get you up here in D.C. Listen, what's so beautiful about this movement is you have people, it's such a big coalition, and you have people that have contributed little bits of their time here and there, and then other people that have committed, big things to this. The next person, the next woman that I'm about to introduce hasn't done even big things. She's done enormous things, huge things that have made this movement possible. Claire Morrell is a fellow of the Ethics and Public Policy Center and a director of its Technology and Human Flourishing Project, the Tech Exit. She's also the author of an upcoming book, The Tech Exit, a practical guide to freeing kids and teens from smartphones, which releases this June. I'm going to be one of the first to buy it, and I'll do a great review because I know it's going to be fantastic. Claire has been one of the most influential policy thinkers on protecting kids online, and it's an honor to have her here today. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you all. As a mom of 3 young children, what keeps me up at night is how I am going to protect them from coming across online pornography. You see, in my policy work, I've heard too many stories and seen the evidence firsthand that it is a nearly impossible fight for parents to keep their children safe from porn online. In this era of smartphones and social media, kids don't need to go looking for porn. It finds them. More than half of teens have encountered pornography accidentally. A parent can do everything right. They can install filters on every device, set up all the parental controls, and sadly, it won't be enough. The smartphone, with its universe of apps, means there are thousands of portals to the internet for a parent to try to oversee. And apps block filters, filters have bugs, there are countless loopholes. It's just not working. When a child today can get to Pornhub inside of the Snapchat app in just 5 clicks, and when Snapchat blocks external filters or controls, what's a parent to do? The reality is parents need backup. They need better laws. The government must step in to help parents, and states like Texas are. 2 years ago, my organization, the Ethics and Public Policy Center, in conjunction with the Center for Renewing America, we put out model language to help states introduce age verification bills and make them as strong as possible. And now Texas, along with 18 other states, as has been mentioned, have all succeeded in passing age verification laws. The wave of these laws that have passed the last 3 years gives me so much hope for our country. These states, they understand what is happening, the scourge of online pornography on our children and how impossible it is for parents to fight it alone, and they have said, enough. They have put the onus back where it belongs, on the porn sites themselves, rather than parents to try to restrict children's access to online pornography. Bravo. Laws like Texas's now mean that if a child were to click on a link to Pornhub or another porn site, they wouldn't be able to click through to see the violent and dehumanizing sexual content on those sites. And so these laws, they must be upheld. What we are asking of the Supreme Court today is to understand that technology has changed greatly over the last 20 years since the court last considered an age verification law. Since then, in a world of smartphones and apps, filters are not effective. On the other hand, the last 20 years has brought technological changes that have made age verification convenient and anonymous. And so it does not burden adult privacy or speech. All these changes mean the court's calculus today should be different this time. Age verification is constitutional, and it is critically needed by parents to protect our children and strengthen America's families. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. And we look forward to continue working with you to get this done for all kids in America. We got to protect everyone in America. The next speaker is awesome and works for an awesome guy. Tammy Brown Rodriguez is the Director of Policy for Jacoboyan's ministry, and she draws on her expertise in human trafficking policy and personal experience as a family member impacted by trafficking to advocate for vulnerable populations. Tammy is recognized for her leadership with awards like the Women in Business Award. Man, it is so cold out here. I'm having a hard time pronouncing all my words. She works to ensure survivor voices shape meaningful legislative and judicial protections. Tammy, thank you so much for all your work, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. So for me, this fight is personal. My family has felt the devastating impact of trafficking firsthand. As someone I loved, my niece was trafficked for 15 years. And she was exposed initially to pornography first, and then she was isolated in the school and exploited in her own school system. That experience opened my eyes to the vulnerabilities in our systems and the urgent need for more protection for our children. As the Director of Policy for Jacoboyan's Ministries, I focus on crafting and advancing policies across this nation that not only address the aftermath of trafficking, but more importantly, the prevention. Whether it's the grooming in schools, online exploitation, or systematic gaps, we must ensure that no child is left unprotected. Now, this is not a new idea, right? In the late 50s, the Supreme Court affirmed that public policy should prohibit children from purchasing explicit content in stores. The reasoning then was simple. Children must be shielded from material that can harm their development and well-being. Decades later, that principle still holds true. And right now, we are asking the Supreme Court to do the same thing with digital content. Right now, the challenges of digital age demand that we extend protections to online spaces where children are more vulnerable than ever. This work is about more than policies today. It's about children. It's about the futures that hang in the balance and the families like ours that were forever changed by these crimes. Survivors and their families deserve to have their voices heard, their experience informed in the protections that we now have an opportunity in Texas to keep in place. Together, we can build a future where every child is safe, every family is whole, and that no one, not a single child, is left behind. Thank you.
Oh man, this is great. I reviewed this all last night, but it's still kind of surprising when each person comes up. So one of our favorite groups in the entire country that's been on the front lines of protecting kids is Exodus Cry. And yes, that's exactly right. They come at these issues in a totally different way. They're totally disruptive. And we have Helen Taylor from Exodus Cry. She's the Vice President of Impact there. Exodus Cry, if you guys don't know, like we do, they are an organization dedicated to ending sex trafficking and the commercial sexual exploitation of human beings. Originally from London, Helen has been fighting against sex trafficking since 2007. And before joining Exodus Cry in 2013, she worked as an art therapist with trafficking survivors in Cambodia. At Exodus Cry, Helen oversees the outreach department, which reaches out to trafficked individuals in various settings, including streets, strip clubs, brothels, and online platforms. She has trained over 3,000 people in outreach across 12 countries and led anti-trafficking initiatives at major sporting events. In 2022, Helen addressed the United Nations on human trafficking. Helen is also the author of Exodus Cry's Intervention Manual, a guide for reaching those in the sex industry, which is also used in 28 countries. Helen, Helen, please come up and share your words. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So great to be with you all. At no other time in human history has mainstream pornography been, one, so accessible to children and youth, and two, so graphic, hardcore, and violent. The teen category on Pornhub received 33.5 billion visits in 2018. This category has consistently topped the charts for the most searched term on the site. A third of total daily searches on porn sites are for teen porn. It's disturbing enough that adults seek out content depicting teens, but the reality is that many of those searches come from kids and teens themselves. The average age a child is exposed to pornography is 11, and that age is getting younger all the time. Now, 62% of 11 to 13-year-olds who have seen porn reported that their first exposure to it was actually unintentional. Children under 10 years old now account for 22% of underage porn consumers, and 10 to 14-year-olds make up 36% of minor consumers. These facts and statistics are chilling. We know that, tragically, many of the visitors to sites like Pornhub are actually children. In 2020, my organization, Exodus Cry, in what became a global campaign, Trafficking Hub, exposed how Pornhub did not verify age or consent on any of their content. Hundreds of women are currently suing the company for hosting and monetizing videos of real rape, trafficking, and abuse, including underage content. Survivors such as Serena Fleites, who had a video of her, age 14, non-consensually uploaded to the site and viewed millions of times, or Rose Kalemba, whose gang rape video, age 13, was uploaded and monetized for months. She said Pornhub immortalized her trauma. The New York Times later investigated Pornhub and found non-consensual content throughout. Nick Kristof wrote, "The site is infested with rape videos. It monetizes child rape, revenge pornography, spy cam videos, videos of women showering, racist and misogynistic content. Credit card companies consequently cut ties with Pornhub, who then deleted 91% of their unverified content, around 10 million videos, at the end of 2020, which was a victorious moment in the fight against sexual exploitation. I have personally spoken with dozens of these women, and the trauma of what they've endured from having a porn company profit from public videos of their abuse and torture is frankly unprecedented. As recently as last week, one survivor informed me that her videos were just re-uploaded, and so the fight on that front is still ongoing. It's important to highlight this reality because it underscores that children today are two clicks away from consuming digital crime scenes and witnessing real trafficking, rape videos on porn sites. Kids are exposed to horrific sexual violence and understandably can experience it as a neurological assault. Is this not a form of child abuse? Filters and parental controls are helpful, but certainly not enough. All children, no matter their family situation or level of privilege, must be protected online. And I was actually undercover in a meeting in Hollywood a week after Representative Lori Schlegel introduced the Louisiana bill. This is at a pornography convention hosted by the Free Speech Coalition, and the mood in the room was absolute fury that Louisiana had introduced age verification, and they were strategizing how to overturn that law. This is a couple of years ago. I'm currently producing a documentary called Girls on Porn about the impact of pornography on children, specifically girls. With me today are some of the brave young women from our film who have chosen to share their stories in the hope of passing better protections for the next generation, and they will be up next sharing. Today I represent over 100 anti-trafficking organizations and child protection groups who signed on in support of our Protect Children Not Porn campaign, which has received 100,000 signatures. We are imploring all states to pass age verification and prioritize and protect children over big porn. We urge the Supreme Court today to apply the child protection laws of the physical world to the digital world when it comes to pornography, and to uphold the Texas age verification law, sending a clear message that in the United States in 2025, protecting children comes first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen, and we love your work. The next speaker is Taylor Mathoka. Mathoka, excellent, very good. She's from Freedom Hub International. She's a wife, mother of two, and the founder of Freedom Hub International. After being exposed to hardcore pornography as a child, she is now dedicated to protecting children from the harmful effects of pornography and helping women break free from their pornography addiction. Taylor, come on up. Thank you for doing this. This is so good.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I stand before you today not as a founder, a mom, or even an advocate, but a girl who we're all heavily fighting for today. At the age of 7, I was exposed to pornography. It wasn't something I sought out, but it was shown to me by a friend in my own home. All we had to do was check a box claiming we were 18 years old, and just like that, I was dragged into a world I was far too young to see or understand. My pure curiosity took me back to this website night after night, just curious to see more. And by the time I was 8 years old, it had already become a full-blown addiction, an addiction that would persist for years, shaping the way I thought, the way I viewed myself, and the way I saw the world. I was just a child who cared about school, birthday parties, and ice cream. That one moment of exposure stole my innocence, and it stole my childhood. With no barriers in place, no meaningful age verification, I was exposed to violent and disturbing content that no one should ever see, especially not a child. From age 7 to 17, which was how long I was addicted, I struggled with depression, loneliness, shame, anger, and fear, and which I am still working through today. And this is why I stand before you, as a child born and raised in Texas, urging you, the Supreme Court, to uphold Texas House Bill 1181, which would require pornography sites to implement meaningful age verification systems to protect children from the same fate I suffered. The porn industry should be held accountable for putting our children at risk every day by keeping explicit content so easily accessible for them. Passing this law does not take away First Amendment rights, but it brings freedom, safety, and a long-term solution to the thousands of children who have already been or are just a few clicks away from being exposed. And I hope you see today that this law is not just about protecting this generation, but all the generations after. We simply cannot expect surface-level safeguards like checking a box that you're 18 or even the child's parents to be enough. In an internet-focused generation, the opportunities for exposure are everywhere and are ever-growing. To leave this burden solely on a parent and verification law is part of the real solution. And I pray that our government is on the right side of history in their decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And that's exactly right. Parents have our work cut out for us enough. Why do we have to worry about cleaning up the toxins that these companies are putting into our air? If you got a factory that's making paint and they're putting toxins into the river and getting anyone sick, guess who has to clean up that paint and toxin mess? The paint company, right? Putting the onus on the citizens that are being impacted by all this. We're not making money. We're giving money to this country. So thank you so much, Taylor. It's exactly right. Parents have a tough enough job to have to be dealing with this. Rachel Robinson is a wife and is passionate on helping men and women find freedom from pornography and exploitation. After over a decade-long battle with porn and an abusive relationship in her teen years, now in freedom, Rachel is determined to see exploitative porn demolished, empower people to use their voice, and protect the upcoming generation from childhood pornography exposure. Rachel, come on up.
Thank you so much. Of course. Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's so good to be here with all of you. I was 7 years old when I was exposed to pornography. From a psychological standpoint, at 7 years old, most children begin to understand more about rules, relationship, and social behaviors. At 7 years old, positive reinforcement is a critical piece to instilling confidence and identity in a child. The moment I was shown porn, my life was drastically changed forever. With absolutely zero restrictions, I was able to go on any laptop and search for pornography. At 7 years old, I had no understanding of what I was looking at, or that moment in time would lead to a 13-year porn addiction. My brain was developing while I watched brutal porn videos where women and men were degraded and treated like animals. To explain to you in further detail what many porn videos show today, I'm going to be listing some quotes of real porn titles on Pornhub today. I found these titles 3 days ago. I've censored them as best I can, but I feel like in these kind of situations, trigger warnings are not necessary. This content is graphic, it's real, and it's happening today. It should make you angry, and it should make you uncomfortable. Quote, woman raped. She is not allowed to say no. Quote, little girl tied up for the first time. Quote, she loves to be used like a piece of meat. This is just scratching the surface of the porn videos produced in the porn industry and on Pornhub today. It was videos like these that were teaching me about myself, how I should view myself and others, and behave in relationships. The porn industry taught me that I was an object, that being hit, degraded, and used is not only normal, but a turn-on. That if I do not consent, that is okay because I am an object of pleasure. The porn industry lies to us and tells us that we can learn about sex and sexual preferences from porn. Hear me loud and clear. Porn is not a form of sexual education. Porn is not a view of healthy sex. Porn normalizes violence and abuse. Studies show that 10 to 15-year-olds who watch porn are 5 times more likely to become sexually aggressive or become victims of sexual abuse themselves. It was porn that desensitized me to sexual violence. It was porn that had shaped my mind at 7 years old to objectify myself. I was hospitalized in a psych ward when I was 11 years old due to extreme self-harm and wanting to commit suicide. I had an ongoing eating disorder from ages 12 to 20, and I was in an abusive relationship from 16 to 18 years old. I remember coming home after being sexually assaulted for the first time and looking at myself in the mirror, my mouth covered in bruises, and thinking, but this should be normal, right? That was just like the porn I've been watching. I was screaming no, I was screaming stop, but is that supposed to be sexy? I was 16. Trying to rationalize why my no didn't mean no, but it was the porn industry. It was the porn industry that played the most significant role in my mental health, the lies I once believed, and the abuse I endured. Porn stole my childhood from me. If these sites had age verification, my life would look extremely different, and I would have not endured the struggle that I did. And I'm telling you today that age verification is an uttermost necessity to preventing child exploitation and stories like mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. That was a very powerful testimony, and I will say that it wasn't 7, but I saw my first Playboy magazine at 10, right? And that was Playboy. That's nothing compared to what we got online right now. What these guys in the Supreme Court are trying to defend and protect, it's the most violent and lacking of any sort of value whatsoever. It's just destructive. So thank you so much for sharing that. Olivia Reed was introduced to pornography at a young age and identifies this occurrence as a leading contributor to mental health issues, body image, sexual orientation, and complications with romantic intimacy. Olivia moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting, but is now trained to become an ordained pastor while completing her master's in theology and ministry. Olivia, come on up.
Do a great job, crush it. Good morning, everyone. I'm from Nebraska, but this is cold. When I was 10 years old, I was exposed to pornography. Like many children, my exposure was accidental. In the middle of the night, I walked into a room where an adult had left on the TV. On it were 2 naked women doing graphic sex scenes that my child brain would never have even imagined. I was a happy child. Doe-eyed, often found singing Disney princess songs on swing sets, and eager to see all that the world had to offer. Yet as I grew into a teenager, performing in dance competitions and attending Jonas Brothers concerts, I would constantly cycle back to what became known in my mind as that video. Yet the more that video came up, the more anxious I became. So much so that in 8th grade I began experiencing panic attacks and within a couple of years was placed on Lexapro, an SSRI medication for out-of-control anxiety after telling my parents that I wished I were dead my freshman year of high school. That video, as it was labeled in my brain, was full-fledged pornography. And in the aftermath, what followed was confusion around my sexuality, difficulty in dating, a lack of trust in romantic partners, and the constant anxious suffering and mental rumination of what I now know is obsessive-compulsive disorder. 15 years later, I am still plagued by this mental battle of OCD. I'm in the midst of intense therapy to overcome it, but all the same am continuously living in the shadow of the effects of being exposed to pornography as a child. Mourning what could have been different and secretly blaming myself for having ever seen that video. There are places where children should feel safe. At home, at school, amongst family members and close friends. Yet in our highly technological society, the reality is that children are not safe from pornography anywhere. They carry it in their back pockets with their smartphones, which they can access in locker rooms, classrooms, friends' houses, at sleepovers. They can click the wrong link on their iPads, stumbling across pornographic content or clickbait on YouTube or Instagram. If I was exposed as a child in 2007, the children of America today, your children, do not stand a chance. I am here because I represent a generation of people harmed by the lack of regulation and protocol needed to access pornographic content. And I am here because when will we say that enough is enough and hold porn sites to the law of consensual adult age and work to make a better future for the children of America? Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. With all these personal testimonies, it's really hit, because these are obviously courageous people, right? To get up here and tell you about their experiences and the harm that they've suffered and everything they went through. How many kids don't we know about, right? And if you're a parent, how do you know if your kid watched porn for the first time? How do you know? Besides a huge change in behavior, a change in attitude, unless they tell you, unless you find in the search history that they didn't clear out, right? So thank you guys so much for all the courage that you're showing today in speaking up. This is going to lead to real reforms and real protections for our kids. Annalisa Wren is a worship leader and passionate advocate for women overcoming addiction to pornography. Since being exposed to porn at 6 years old, she has now become committed to creating safe spaces of healing and transformation for women and protecting children from the destructive influence of pornography. Annalisa?
Hello. I was exposed to pornography when I was 6 years old, and it changed the trajectory of my life forever. A friend came over, and in seconds, she was able to show me graphic porn on our family computer. After my parents divorced because of my father's infidelity and porn addiction, I coped with my abandonment wounds by escaping reality through pornography. I was addicted at 11 years old, consuming explicit and often violent sexual content daily because it was so readily available and was the only emotional release that I had. But its empty promise of pleasure fueled my body dysmorphia, tormenting depression, daily self-harm, and extreme promiscuity and suicidal ideation as a little girl. Pornography became the lens through which I saw the world, and I concluded that my sexual usefulness was the only valuable aspect of my identity. In porn, I watched women be degraded, objectified, and dehumanized. In my first sexual encounters as a very young girl, I couldn't recognize when I was being coerced, assaulted, or abused. I was conditioned by pornography that I had to learn to enjoy being treated this way. I was no longer human. I was an object being used to fulfill someone's porn-informed sexual fantasies. Men would threaten to suffocate me, choke me, and beat me. Porn taught me that this was normal. I began finding video chatting sites where I would strip for strangers, most of them middle-aged men. I was a child. My access to hardcore porn and webcam sites was completely unrestricted, and I took full advantage of the twisted and dark content that to this day I can never unsee. As I entered adulthood, I told my father of the chain of events that his sex addiction caused in my life and my own porn addiction that I was imprisoned in as a child. His response to me was, "And no one was there to protect you?" "No," I responded. "No one protected me." We are in a crucial moment in history where we have the opportunity to protect young people in our nation from porn through passing age verification laws. Researchers conclude that children under 10 now account for 22% of underage online porn consumption. That is billions of visits from children not yet in 5th grade. One study showed that 10% of 12-year-olds think they're already addicted. Pornography consumption is a neurological public health crisis targeting adolescent minds and building within them a nearly unbreakable dependency. The porn industry is merciless and cruel, often showcasing rape, trafficking, and abuse as our children's primary source of sexual education. But there is no world in which the undeveloped prepubescent brains of curious children in such a pornified culture can be protected from porn exposure without third-party, ID-based age verification. I plead with you to fight for the millions of minors who have no one protecting them from porn. Thank you.
Thank you, Annalisa. The next, we got another Exodus Cry Lady. Thank you so much, guys. We love this strong showing from you guys. Christina Rangel is a survivor of sex trafficking who transformed her life through faith and now works with others to help others escape the exploitation. She is the founder and director of Extreme Love Anti-Trafficking in California. Christina's journey began with a difficult childhood and a teenage pregnancy, leading her to vulnerability and eventual exploitation in Las Vegas. After a powerful spiritual encounter while in prison, she turned her life around. Now married with children, heck yes, we love that. Christina assists law enforcement in anti-trafficking operations and provides support to trafficking survivors, drawing from her personal experiences to offer practical and emotional guidance. Christina, come on up. So great.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Pornography is not for children. As a survivor of sex trafficking, a mother of 3 daughters, and yes, I did also survive the prison system for 2 years. I was in federal prison because of what my trafficker forced me to do. The system that was built to identify and protect me criminalized me because they were unaware of what was going on. We will no longer allow victims of the sex industry to go unidentified because we know what is going on. Pornography is the root of sex trafficking and has exponentially increased the amount of child-on-child sexual violence. Current mainstream pornography is riddled with incest, violence, sexual abuse, barely teens, and those depicted to be children, and tens of thousands of videos of bestiality. Age verification is not only needed, it is essential for the well-being and safety of future generations. The online porn industry is operating more like the Wild West without any regulation and attempting to hide behind the First Amendment, which has resulted in an abyss of obscene content wrought with abuse and sex trafficking that is accessible to our children with just a few clicks. Using the term rape is complicated when referring to pornography. However, online pornography depicting rape is one of the most popular and most viewed genres of sexual violence in porn. With more than 100,000 pages of rape fantasy porn on the internet, it is also one of the most accessible. With a simple Google search of abuse porn, on Pornhub alone, there are 61,459 videos under the title 18 and Abused. A recent study showed that over 50% of content on Pornhub homepage was incest-themed. One of the most popular channels on Pornhub that boasts over 61 million views and consists of over 500 videos is called My Perv Family. This case is about protecting children, period. Age verification requiring minimal time, minimal information does not violate an adult's constitutional right. It protects children. With 19 states having recently passed age verification laws, the American public has made their demand very clear. What may be mainstream for adults is clearly obscene for children, and it must be treated as such. It is paramount that age verification laws be allowed to do their purpose and keep children protected from online pornographic content. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And a lot of you guys know American Principles Project, we're mostly a national group. We do some work in the states, but it's really to build momentum to get some stuff done nationally to protect all kids, even the kids stuck in blue states. But one awesome group that we love to work with is the Family Policy Alliance. And we are blessed today to have Joseph Combe here. He's the Director of Public Policy at FPA, where he leads policy strategy and advocates for pro-family legislation. He's a U.S. Army veteran. Thank you for your service, my friend, of the 10th Mountain Division. Joseph graduated from Virginia Military Institute. Awesome. It's so cool how many awesome people we have here tonight. Regent University School of Law. He is licensed to practice law in Washington, D.C. and New York with experience in military justice and anti-human trafficking efforts. Joe, come on up.
Hey, thank you, Terry. Well, good morning. My name is Joseph Combe. I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Public Policy for Family Policy Alliance. We're a national organization dedicated to seeing vulnerable children and parents protected in state and federal law. And along with our network of state family policy councils, or FPCs, we have helped 18 other states besides Texas pass laws similar to the one that's being defended in the Supreme Court this morning. Parents have the right to direct the upbringing of their children, and that includes when and how they learn about sex. These laws are essential to restoring that parental right and to protecting children from exposure to pornography. But in addition to representing FPA and families around the country, I have the privilege of reading remarks from one of our heroic national allied experts this morning. Her name is Heidi Olson. She's a registered nurse and a pediatric sexual assault nurse examiner who has provided care to hundreds of children who have experienced sexual violence. She and I have testified together in favor of these laws, and she regrets not being able to be here this morning. But she has trusted me to deliver these remarks to you, and I'm so honored to do that. So here's what she says. Across the United States, we are seeing a disturbing trend, which is that an alarming number of children are sexually assaulting other children. Data from the last 10 years shows that anywhere from 1/3 to almost 1/2 of those committing sexual assaults against children are minors themselves. In fact, the age range most likely to commit sexual assault are 11 to 15-year-old males, with 14-year-old males being the highest risk to engage in this behavior. There are multiple factors that contribute to a child sexually harming another child, but an increasingly common theme we've heard from offenders is that pornography has influenced them to sexually act out on another child. Research backs this up, with multiple studies showing the link between the adolescent brain, pornography, and sexual violence. Dr. Sharon Cooper, a forensic pediatrician, stated, "Imagery definitely affects children. When a child sees this image of adult pornography, the mirror neurons that are in their brain will convince them that they are actually experiencing what they are seeing." Children learn by imitation, so it's not surprising that kids are acting out when they are what they are watching in pornography, as evidenced by increased rates of problematic sexual behavior, strangulation, and a massive uptick in sexual assaults being filmed and distributed to other kids on apps like Snapchat. Can you imagine having to go to school when all your peers have watched your rape online? Pornography consumption is also causing erectile dysfunction in teenage males, which most medical professionals are not asking about or not screening for. Finally, another alarming trend we are seeing is that many girls are failing to recognize their abuse or exploitation because objectification and sexual violence have become so normalized and praised in their world. Heidi concludes by saying, "I believe the current trends I'm describing are just the tip of the iceberg if we don't start to protect our kids from an industry that is actively harming them." This is why we are here today, folks, to demand that states and parents have the right to protect our kids from an industry that is exploiting and robbing them of the chance to experience true sexual intimacy in a committed relationship. I am one of those victims. The pornography industry robbed me of that innocence through a years-long struggle with an addiction to pornography that thankfully, years ago, the love of Jesus Christ and my community of Christians set me free from. But we are here today in a noble cause to make sure no child ever has to go through that to be set free in the first place. So I thank you all for being here and joining us in that cause. God bless you all.
Thank you, Joseph. The next speaker is from one of our other favorite groups, National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Peter Gentala serves on the National Nicosi Law Center as the senior legal counsel. Nicosi filed an amicus brief representing 15 Texas state senators in support of the Texas age verification law. Peter has litigated constitutional and public law cases at every level of the federal court system, including 2 cases decided by the Supreme Court. Peter, excited to have you here. Thank you for coming. Come on up.
When I think about this issue, I actually have a memory that comes to mind. It's a room. I'm going to describe it to you. It's a playroom. It's a child's playroom. There are toys there, blocks, Legos, stuffed animals, and there are children in the room playing, beautiful children, innocent children, playing with the toys that are there. It's actually a waiting room, and it resembles a waiting room that you might see at your child's pediatrician's office. The room I'm trying to describe to you is the waiting area at the Child Help Children's Center, which is a child advocacy center in Phoenix, Arizona. And for 5 years, I had the opportunity to be on the team that served children through that facility. It's where the beginning of healing begins for children who have been victims of sexual crime in Arizona. The children who are in that waiting room playing with those toys are about to have their first sexual assault examination. And I learned through my time at Child Help that most of the children who had endured sexual abuse at the hands of another child, there was pornography at the root of the issue, repeatedly, over and over again. The statistics that Nurse Heidi had shared, that it's up to a half of children who have suffered sexual assault, are absolutely true. Child-on-child sexual violence is just one of the ways that pornography robs the innocence from our kids. The court behind me, the justices have had the opportunity to hear from groups across the country and sharing the severe harm that children have endured because of pornography. We're talking about lifelong impact. Even something as tangible as neurological impact that will change their lives forever. At Nicosia, I have the privilege of representing survivors of sexual abuse in civil litigation, and so I'm very familiar with many of the members of the so-called Free Speech Coalition. They are defendants in lawsuits that we're prosecuting. Most of these lawsuits focus on a problem of consensuality. That is, the people depicted on the websites themselves did not agree to be there. They're there as a result of force, fraud, or coercion. And some of them are there when they were depicted when they were children. So when you think about the content that is available on pornographic websites in the United States, keep in mind that the content itself is created through illegal means in many circumstances. And to take just one documented example of this, Pornhub was forced last year to enter into a consent decree, a do not prosecute agreement with the Eastern District of New York, the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York, because the organization was found to have profited from sex trafficking material on its website. So that's just one documented example of how this terrible problem with lack of consent on pornographic websites is occurring throughout our country. So I would like you to think about your community. It also has waiting rooms like the Child Help Children's Center in Arizona. This morning, there are children who are going to be checking into these waiting rooms where they will receive their first examination because of what has happened to them. And the question we have in front of us is, as a community, are we going to stand for them? Are we going to do what it takes? Do we have the will, the political will, to step forward and say it is unacceptable for children to have their innocence robbed from them? That the First Amendment doesn't mean we have to lock into a situation where children will endure lifelong suffering. We're talking about an industry, the sex industry, that cannot be trusted to police itself. Texas has done the right thing. 18 other states have done the right thing. And we hope that the Supreme Court will do the right thing and uphold Senate Bill 1181. Thank you very much.
As Peter was talking about the child-on-child sexual abuse, it reminded me of one of the motivating factors for us getting involved in this issue. I've got a great friend. Her name's Judy. She's from Philadelphia. She's a social worker there, and she specializes in working with children who are sexual abuse victims, but also the ones who have sexually abused other children. And she found out that we were looking at getting involved in protecting children from porn, and she pulled me aside. We were at a family gathering, pulls me aside and says, "You have to do this. You have to do this. Every case that I work on, you know what I work on, but every case that I work on where a kid is sexually abusing another kid, there's always pornography involved. You think about the effects that has where a child abuses another child sexually and the impact that has on that child might not have ever even seen pornography that was abuse. And now their entire life is turned upside down. So Peter, thank you so much for bringing more attention to that. One of my other heroes today, we're just surrounded by my heroes today, is Meg Gilcannon. She's from the Family Research Council. She's a senior fellow there for education studies. She previously served at the U.S. Department of Education as Director of Office of Faith and Opportunity Initiatives in the Trump administration. Meg combines her expertise in education policy with her skills as a coalition builder to promote excellence and accountability in America's public schools. Meg, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, Terry. My name is Meg Kilgannon, and it is my honor to express the Family Research Council's unequivocal support for this effort. We're grateful to Attorney General Paxton and the amici who have worked to protect children from the scourge of internet pornography. Since our founding in 1983, FRC stood with grassroots legends like Morality and Media, now in Nicosi, and the Ohio Centers for Community Values, as they led the fight to protect children and families from the evil of pornography. Family Research Council believes that pornography is a violation of human dignity that perverts the beauty of human sexuality and exploits human beings as commodities. Pornography inflicts its poison on marriages, on families, and on communities. And worst of all, it steals innocence from our children and endangers them. The protection of children is a value shared by all civilized people. That's why you don't see anybody standing over there with their face on it being the face of the pornography industry. All civilized people want to protect children. America needs to stop worrying about the market access of corporations who want to profit off the exploitation of women and children. America needs to stop listening to people who think that monetizing vice is a noble constitutional cause. It is our great hope that the incoming administration will see the need for more work in this area. We've been waiting more than 30 years for federal prosecution of adult obscenity, and we believe the need for federal prosecution has never been greater, and we encourage the Department of Justice to prioritize obscenity prosecutions as they work to end human trafficking and other threats to our families and our national security. We're grateful for this important work to protect children and families, and we encourage everyone here today to keep fighting and to keep praying. Our children will never be safe if they grow up in a world that tolerates the sexual exploitation of anyone, anywhere, and of any age. Thank you so much.
All right. Going to keep this program rolling. I just found out, by the way, my team pulled me aside. They said, did you know that there are over 3,000 people watching online? 3,000 people? Are you kidding me? It's incredible. Thank you, guys. And we wouldn't have that many if it wasn't for all of you here. Annie Chestnut Tudor is a policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation's Tech Policy Center, and she joined in November 2023. Previously, Annie worked in the U.S. Senate for 8 years, most recently as the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee staffer for Senator Ron Johnson, another pro-family champion, and as a legislative assistant for Senator Mike Lee from Utah, where her policy portfolio included tech and telecom. Annie, thank you so much for coming. I'm excited to hear from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Texas is right. 18 other states were right. Will the Supreme Court agree? Age verification is the only technical solution that consistently and reliably keeps kids off pornography websites. The court has ruled on several occasions that the government has a compelling interest to protect kids from obscene content. In 2004, it determined filtering and blocking software was the least restrictive means to protect kids without harming adults' free speech. Since then, we've seen that filtering and blocking software fails and is certainly not ubiquitous. In one study, 17% of 12 to 15-year-olds reported viewing disturbing content when a filter was in place. This was only marginally better than a 22% of kids who reported seeing disturbing content without a filter in place. If the state truly has a compelling interest to protect kids, it has failed. With smartphones, access to porn is easy, discreet, and rampant. 95% of teens have a smartphone. And by Pornhub's records, 92% of their U.S. users view porn from their smartphone. Better safeguards are needed, and they exist. Texas rightfully determined that the solution to both backstop parents, who are not around 24/7, and barriers, which can be easily manipulated and evaded, is age verification. Louisiana, the first state to pass such a law, uses a third-party software that allows users to verify their age through a digital credential of a state ID that only shares whether a user is over 18 with a participating website. Online gambling websites must verify their users are of legal age. Instagram has been testing age verification methods for teen users since 2022, including methods that do not require using a government-issued ID. One of these methods boasts a 99% success rate, a significant improvement from filters. These are just a few examples of reasonable age verification. The Texas law is not overly prescriptive in what can be used. In her 1997 opinion, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said, "There is no means of age verification. Cyberspace still remains largely unzoned and unzonable. Although the prospects for the eventual zoning of the internet appear promising, I agree with the court that we must evaluate the constitutionality of the Communications Decency Act as it applies to the internet as it exists today." Well, nearly 30 years later, as the internet exists today, filtering and blocking software has failed our kids, pornography is flourishing, and there are several means for successful age verification.
Thank you, Annie. This term gets thrown out a lot by our opponents. Undue burden. This is an undue burden. What about the undue burden that's being put onto parents and families, forcing them to be around and monitoring their kids' activity 24/7, right? We have to prioritize these things. Our next speaker is an awesome guy named Brad Littlejohn. He's a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center's Technology and Human Flourishing in Evangelicals and Civic Life programs. Brad has, with Claire Morrell, helped lead the Public Policy Coalition in support of age verification. His wide-ranging research and writing encompasses work on the relation of digital technology and embodiment, the appropriate limits of free speech, and the intersection of religion and public life. He is the author of Called to Freedom, Retrieving Christian Liberty in an Age of License, and has authored or edited 18 other books. He is a weekly opinion contributor at World Magazine and publishes extensively in other outlets such as First Things, National Affairs, American Affairs, The American Conservative, The Public Discourse, American Compass, Modern Age, Law and Liberty, and many, many more. Thank you so much, Brad. Come on up. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, American Principles Project. Thank you, everyone in this coalition, for your amazing work on this essential initiative. Today, we are standing here in support of a simple proposition. As a people, we have a responsibility to our children not to poison the minds of 10-year-olds with videos of gang rape. Now, this sounds simple, and it really is. Now, law is usually a little more complicated, and that's why we have this court here. But in this case, the legal issues are still much simpler than the porn lobby would have you believe. There are really just two questions to be answered. First, is pornography bad for kids? As you've heard from the other speakers at this rally, the question is unambiguously yes. Even the petitioners in this case acknowledge this. They won't admit how bad it is. But they concede what our courts have always maintained, that our states have a compelling interest to protect children from this obscene content. Second, then, is there a better way to protect them than age verification? The plaintiffs want to say, sure there is, just use parental control software. But this is nonsense. We don't do this in any other domain. We don't say kids shouldn't drive, so parents should keep their keys hidden. We don't say kids shouldn't drink, so parents should monitor their purchases. No, we make policemen and grocery clerks check IDs. And it's a heck of a lot harder to hide a car or a liquor bottle in your back pocket than it is pornography. I know parental controls from both sides of the fence. As a child in the earlier days of the internet, and as a parent of 4 today. And I can tell you from both perspectives that relying on filters is a joke. All due respect to the remarkable people at Covenant Eyes and Canopy and Protect Young Eyes, they are heroes. But the reality is that they are fighting a hydra, and most parents are simply overwhelmed. The tech is changing too fast and coming at them from too many quarters. My wife is a full-time stay-at-home mom, and she spends several hours a week protecting our kids on the internet. Most parents can't do that. And guess what? Stuff still gets through. Did you know that a child can disable all Microsoft Family Safety controls in a couple of clicks? Did you know that software will just stop working at random intervals? Most parents don't, but their kids might. They find the loopholes and they become addicted. Now, of course, free speech is essential, and Texas has written its law with that in mind. Our friends at AVPA have designed their products with that in mind. But let's get real about speech. When James Madison wrote the First Amendment, he had in mind the freedom of citizens to publicly deliberate on the common good, not the freedom of pornographers to poison the minds of our children. Let's send a message to the most exploitative industry on the planet that their time is up.
Thank you so much, Brad. We originally invited Penny Nance, who's a huge hero to me. She's been a mentor, really like the big sister I never had, to come from Concerned Women for America. They've been an incredible partner group for us, but she wasn't able to make it today. But that's okay, because she instead sent us the person on her team that makes everything happen. Annabelle Rutledge is the Executive Vice President at Concerned Women for America. In that role, she serves as one of the main spokespersons for the organization and forges new national partnerships, stewarding some of CWA's most treasured relationships. Annabelle oversees CWA's Young Women for America program, which equips and empowers young women to advocate for truth in the public square. Annabelle, thank you so much for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you to everyone out here who is braving the cold. We would not be here in 20-degree weather that feels like 14 degrees if this wasn't an extremely important issue, and it is an extremely important issue. We are here to send a very clear message to the big tech industry and the big porn industry to stay away from our children. Requiring simple age verification for access to pornographic sites online and protecting minors from obscene material is a common sense, and it is the lowest bar. We are frankly appalled that a law such as this one will get challenged. And I know that I am not my boss, Penny Nance, who I also look up to, but I can say that I speak for Penny in sharing how important this issue is to CWA. And something that Penny takes very seriously, and I also take very seriously, is the fact that we represent hundreds of thousands of women across the country who can't travel thousands of miles to come and be here today, and we are representing their message. And I know that every other person speaking today is also representing thousands of people. Concerned Women for America leaders across the country have fought tirelessly to pass age verification laws like the very one involved in this case. And our CWA members are women who are tired of big tech and big porn putting profits ahead of safety and decency for children. And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to the women who shared their stories and their testimonies today of being victims of this industry and what that did to their lives. Thousands of young women across this nation are fighting the uphill battle against a culture that treats them as commodities. It's an honor to represent our Young Women for America leaders who stand on their colleges and universities across this nation, standing for what is right and being a voice for those who are exploited for pleasure and the corruption of the young. I recently spoke to our CWA Texas State Director, Jana Long, who shared how proud she is of Texas, and we want to share that we also are proud to stand with Texas today. Mothers know the devastating effects of obscenity. They live with the many adverse emotional, psychological, sociological, and physical health outcomes that hurt their children. They've seen their children struggle with its addictive nature. They see the increased rates of depression and anxiety, acting out and violent behavior, sexual promiscuity, increased risk of teen pregnancy, child sex abuse, sexual trafficking, and how pornography distorts the views of the relationships between men and women. And you heard those personal stories today. 51% of boys and 32% of girls admit that they have viewed pornography for the first time before they were 13 years old. 15% of those children report that they first saw pornography online when they were under the age of 11. Think about that. You know, in the Bible, in Matthew, it's very clear. It says that it would be better for a millstone to be tied around someone's neck and for them to be thrown in the ocean than to cause one of these little ones to stumble. And let's be very clear. Obscenity is not protected speech. And we have obscenity laws for everyone, let alone children. Everyone knows that with a simple search, any child of any age, we heard stories today of 6-year-olds, will be able to see sexually explicit, deviant, lewd, and obscene material. Think about that from a perspective of an innocent child, not even just ourselves. Concerned Women for America prays that the court keeps the focus on the children that the state of Texas is trying to protect and does not allow legal jargon to distract them from that very important effort. It is time that our country and this court puts our children first. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. The next speaker is an awesome lady named Marianne Michaelis. Marianne began working with betrayed partners of sex and porn addicts in 2015, which led to her healing journey and ignited a passion for educating and helping others to find healing and recovery. Marianne is a licensed clinical social worker, a certified sex addiction therapist, and a certified partner trauma therapist licensed in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Hawaii. Marianne specializes in working with individuals and couples struggling with PTSD, betrayal trauma, abuse, porn, or sexual addictions and attachment wounds. Marianne, thank you so much for coming. It's a little windy. Come on up. We're braving the storm to protect our kids. This is awesome weather, and we're happy to do it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. What a momentous day today is. I'm here today as I and a handful of other mental health therapists work together to write an amicus brief regarding the mental health impacts of pornography upon our children. Today, I speak for my colleagues, and more importantly, I speak for my clients and their families and the generations that are impacted by pornography addiction. A few weeks ago, I walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I noticed that there were safety nets and guardrails. Age verification laws are the safety nets and guardrails that our children need to help them navigate the digital bridges of their lives. If you remember nothing else from today, I hope you will remember these 3 Ps: Protection prevents pain. Let me tell you about the pain. We rarely see individuals seeking help with unwanted sexual behaviors who were not exposed to some type of pornography in their childhood. As the psychopathology shown in my clients who struggle with pornography addiction include depression, anxiety, emotional illiteracy and detachment, PTSD, trauma, deep levels of hiding, profound and toxic shame, often dissociation, betrayal of self, suicidality or self-harming behaviors, and sexual dysfunction. The damning shame and hiding begins in childhood and accelerates exponentially with the addiction. My clients resist going to support groups or asking for help because they are afraid that they will be seen by others as a monster, as they often see themselves. As a result, they detach, they disconnect, which also creates greater disconnection and deeper shame. This often translates into belief systems that drive how they function and interact. Belief systems that tell them that they are not enough and that they are unlovable. And to combat this pain, they often engage in further addiction. No child is prepared for, nor should be burdened with the complexities of adult sexual relationships. We are daily witnesses of the generational health impacts, mental health impacts of pornography on children. Age verification laws are an enormous step forward to protect the fragile mental health of the rising generation, as today we have a mental health crisis. 20 years ago, we did not know better. Today we do. It is now time to do better. On behalf of the children and our future, I raise my voice in support of protection for all children through age verification. May the Supreme Court use wisdom in supporting the arguments presented. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. We are almost through, guys. We have braved this very cold weather. We have 4 more speakers. Audrey Werner is the founder of the Matthew 18 group, a ministry dedicated to educating parents, pastors, and church administrators about the harmful effects of Kinsey-based sex education on children. Alfred Kinsey, by the way, was the monster. He was an absolute evil, maniac, monster, madman that has done so much destruction. So thank you for taking him on. Audrey's journey began in 1997 when she discovered the concerning origins of sex education materials. Since then, she has worked tirelessly to promote biblical purity and protect children from harmful sexual content. Audrey has testified before state legislatures, spoken internationally, and appeared in documentaries such as The Mind Polluters and Sex Nation. Her work focuses on raising awareness about the dangers of pornography and sex trafficking, particularly their impact on children. Audrey encourages parents and faith leaders to return to biblical principles of purity to protect communities from sexual disease, destruction, and death. Audrey, the floor is yours.
Good. Okay, thank you. I am extremely humbled and very honored to be standing before you today. Not only am I the founder of the Matthew 18 group, I am also one of the authors of the briefs on the case that the court is going to hear. I come to you as a mother, a grandmother, and as a nurse, a former sex educator who then worked in the sexually transmitted disease HIV clinic. In that clinic, I witnessed firsthand the direct effect of sexually explicit materials on children, which prompted me to do the research. When did this all begin? I now teach classes at Masters International University of Divinity on the history of the sexual revolution and its fallout for not only America but for the world. In my research, I came across a man considered to be the father of the sexual revolution, Alfred Kinsey. He was a sadomasochist pedophile that interviewed pedophiles, including a Nazi in a Polish death camp who raped children. Kinsey concluded in his subjective, fraudulent, and criminal studies that children are sexual from birth, infants are never harmed by sex with adults, and rape is a myth. He advocated that children be groomed for sexual contact, and he worked with Hugh Hefner. Incredibly, American society and American law has been changed using Kinsey's science, and today his vision of America has come true. America is the #1 distributor of pornography and the #1 consumer of child sex trafficking. We ask the justices today to support our efforts to protect children from pedophiles who wish to groom our children by using sexually explicit materials. It is time for one nation under God to protect the most vulnerable of our citizens, our children, as well as children around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Tara Schulte. She is championing constitutional rights across the Lone Star State. Tara leads Citizens Defending Freedom as its Texas State Executive Director. At the helm of this national watchdog organization in Texas, Tara spearheads initiatives that empower everyday Americans to safeguard their freedoms and uphold constitutional principles. Tara, come on up.
Thank you. All right. I know. It's almost done. As the Texas State Director of Citizens Defending Freedom, I'm speaking today on behalf of parents fighting for their overwhelming battle to protect their children online. First, I want to thank our exceptional legal team who did write a brief from the Muse Law Group and Remnant Law. I also want to thank CDF National for standing with parents on this very important issue. Parents today face impossible challenges. Even with the strictest rules and parental controls, our brief shows that 83% of children's encounters with pornographic content are unwanted and occurs during innocent web browsing. With 91% of teens carrying smartphones, parents can't monitor every click, every app, or every website their children might accidentally come across. The tools available to parents simply haven't kept pace with technology. Hidden apps, private browsing modes, aggressive marketing by porn sites, targeting youth through gaming and social media have created an environment where even the most vigilant parents struggle to protect their children. We've heard from countless parents who've done everything right. They've installed filters, they've had conversations about online safety, and still, their children were exposed to explicit content. These parents are not asking for censorship. They're asking for the same reasonable protections we already have for alcohol, tobacco, and gambling sites. This Texas law, it supports parents by requiring what responsible businesses should already do: verify users are of legal age. This isn't about restricting protected speech. The Supreme Court has consistently held that obscene material harmful to minors isn't protected by the First Amendment. 20 years ago, when the Ashcroft was decided by this very court, parents worried about family computers in living rooms. Today, every child's pocket is now a potential portal to explicit content. Our legal framework must evolve to help parents and meet these new challenges. The choice is clear. We can either support parents with common sense age verification or just leave them in the fight alone, with these commercial porn sites profiting from exposing their children to harmful material. Our children, they deserve better. Our parents, they deserve better tools.
I ask today that we pray for the wisdom of the United States Supreme Court justices, and that they will choose to protect our children and their innocent minds. God bless all of you. God bless Texas. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. The next speaker is Mary Elizabeth Castle. She is the Director of Government Relations for Texas Values, another one of APP's favorite groups we love to work with, and Texas Values Action, the largest statewide policy organization focusing on faith, family, and freedom in the state of Texas. As Director of Government Relations, she works daily with the Texas Values team, legislators, and their staff at the Texas Capitol to ensure pro-family values are protected. Mary Elizabeth, thank you. This is such much colder weather than what we get in Texas. So thank you, Mary Elizabeth.
Good morning. My name is Mary Elizabeth Castle, and I'm the Director of Government Relations for Texas Values. Texas Values is the largest statewide law and policy organization in the state of Texas that stands for faith, family, and freedom. We have supporters in all 254 counties in our state and focus on the courts, the legislature, and the media. Let kids be kids. In our state of Texas, just like everywhere else in the country, it has become clear that children, some as young as elementary school age, are being inundated with sexual imagery every single day. Whether it's through social media or even some library books at schools, kids have unhindered access to unhealthy images of sex and sexuality that negatively impacts their lives as adults. At Texas Values, we have spent countless years fighting inappropriate and explicit sex education in our state. But the easy part about that is that by law, some parents have control over what their child sees. When it comes to the internet and adult websites, there's not even a solid system to make sure that the viewer is over the age of 18. According to an article by the American Bar Association, viewing pornography as a child can lead to normalizing sexual harm, promoting aggression towards women, and it can have a negative impact on healthy, intimate relationships. Ultimately, allowing kids to view pornography, which their minds cannot developmentally handle, gives them a shaky footing for healthy marriages and a healthy perception of themselves and who God created them to be. At Texas Values, we don't just help pass laws. We educate Texans on what laws are passed, and if we have to, we continue to fight for them even after the governor signs them into law. Today, Texas Values is here to continue that fight for our Texas kids. We know this to be true. The eyes are the windows to the soul. The Gospel of Matthew would even describe the eyes as a lamp to the body. As Texans, we are making sure that kids' souls are not depressed by tainted windows and a snuffed-out light of what healthy relationships and the dignity of humans should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. And we are down to our final speaker. And before I introduce him, I want to reiterate something. I'd like to move on. I think this is a very basic minimum request. It shouldn't really take a lot of work to verify that kids aren't being given porn. So hopefully the Supreme Court gets the job done and lets us protect our kids so we can move on to the other things that are hurting our families. But I just want to reiterate, if they throw a hurdle, we're going to jump over that hurdle. If they put up a fence, we're going to get a ladder. We're going to climb over that fence. If they put up an enormous wall, we're going to parachute over that wall. We're going to get age verification done. We're going to protect our children. And the guy that is on our team at American Principles Project that's going to help us with building that ladder, with getting over these fences and walls and getting these hurdles and making sure we get this done is John Schweppe, one of my best friends. I hired him as an intern in 2010. He's our policy director, American Principles Project, one of the smartest and nerdiest guys I've ever known. John, floor is yours.
Thank you all for braving the cold, guys. I really do appreciate it. This is a big day. I just want to say just a couple of things. I'm a dad to 4 kids, 4 boys. and my oldest is about to turn 7. And so I get people coming up to me all the time, why are you guys so obsessed with porn? Like, why are you talking about porn? Well, I'll tell you, it's because we're on the clock. I really feel it. Every day I wake up, my kids, we know now that the average age of first exposure to pornography is 11, 12 years old. We know what the harms are and how this hurts kids. And so I really feel like we have to get this done. And so I just want to reiterate, this is a big case today. We're going to find out whether this court believes that age verification is constitutional. But I want to say, even if this goes against us, I don't think it will, but even if it goes against us, we're going to keep coming. We're going to keep coming until this industry, this porn industry, is defeated, and until kids are protected online. That's our goal. So again, I want to thank everyone for coming today. We had a wonderful turnout. We had wonderful turnout online, up to 3,000 viewers at one point. And so I really want to thank you and appreciate you guys. Let's go win this case. Thank you so much.